Yeah, is it recording? Yes, go ahead.
Karthik, so this is a system design question. We'll design Book My Show movies section. So Book My Show has a lot of dramas, stand-up comedies, lot of different kind of layout and events. We'll just take movies section, movies, and I want you to give an overall high-level design of Book My Show. How we will approach it.
Okay, great. Um, so Book My Show. There are multiple cities, multiple theaters, and we'll assume that every movie plays in a theater. You don't have any like portable thing where it can be at a different place, right? Like these food trucks are there, right? Which go to a different place every day to serve food. Equivalent of that, we'll assume that is not there in movies. They're in discrete locations. And we'll assume users are particular about a location. If Bangalore has four theaters playing a Rajnikant movie, you can't give me any theater and say, okay, go to that. I will choose.
You can assume
so basic.
Yes.
Go ahead.
You can assume one complex or one any theater also.
I didn't understand what you said.
Location. So whatever you said, Karthik, we can assume one location, particular location. For example, Bangalore.
Right. So Bangalore can be location, or an area within Bangalore can be a location. We can abstract it out. We don't need to think about it. There are any locations all over India.
Okay.
Some small towns like, I don't know, Trichy may have only one theater, but a big city like Bangalore may have 5 theaters. But we don't care. They're all locations. So you have n locations, and each location has a bunch of shows according to a schedule. Let's say 9 a.m. is one, then 12 p.m., then 5 p.m., then 10 p.m., whatever, right? Bunch of locations, and each has a schedule. And the schedule can change from day to day. So weekend can be a different schedule, right? So basically for 7 days, you have a schedule, each of the days. And theater, in each of these slots, a movie is assigned. So until a date. So let's say Monday, 8 p.m. Right? Some movie, right? Some whatever the latest Rajnikant movie is going to play until let's say March end or something. There's some end date. So it's like a repeating event in calendar. Every Monday, 8 p.m. there's an event, which is this particular Rajnikant movie.
Okay.
Some slots can be idle in case they don't have any movie to show. That is one case also. So you have this thing. So when a user comes, you can use geolocation or whatever to find the nearest locations. We are not thinking about UI here. We are not thinking about web versus mobile because it doesn't make a meaningful difference. Basically, you are a user, you log in on that. We're not going to think about payment and all of those, right? Settings, forgot password, all this minor functionality we'll ignore. So I'm a user, I have come.
Payment gateway you don't need to assume, but the process of those questions will be asked. We need to assume the concurrency, the priority, all those things.
Yes. So I'm just saying I'm going to focus on the core use case of booking a show, finding and booking a show, not minor things like forgot password and all these features.
Fair enough.
So I am a user, I have come. There are 2 ways I can browse or search. I can select the location and then see what all movies are playing in it. Or I can type a name of a movie and then find out where that movie is playing and when. So both ways. So yeah, each of these will have like a HTTP endpoint and the database. Yeah, I think given the volume, we can just do a search. Otherwise, we can add indices because how many movies will be there? 1,000. You can probably search them. If it's 1,000,000 movies, you can't search them all. And how many locations across India? Less than 1,000, I'm assuming. So that also you can do an exhaustive search. But if not, you can always add an index to the database. So let's not go there. Basically, you have a table that shows location, movie, and time slot, and end date. So Rajnikant's latest movie is playing at whatever, right? Al-Sur till
Hmm.
March 20th.
Hmm.
And the time assigned to that is whatever, Friday at 10 p.m.
Hmm.
So this movie is going to play at this theater at this time until this date, which is March 20th. So these will all, each of these will be a column in the database.
Hmm.
The user can search either way, right? Like select star where movie equal to whatever the name of the Rajnikant movie is, or select star where theater equal to Al-Sur,
Okay.
right? That is one thing. And you just get the data, show it in a UI of some kind.
Hmm.
If you want to see the schedule for that, you can show like a calendar like UI
Okay.
or whatever other UI you want. So that is about finding. Now,
Hmm.
once you have found, so basically first step is user has to decide what to book. Right? The first step is a search. So that is taken care of. When he is done with the search and he has selected, okay, I'm going to go to Al-Sur theater at Friday 10 p.m., let's say,
Hmm.
whatever that shows.
Hmm.
So then he has made the choice and he'll click the book button.
Hmm.
Then there will be a layout of seats in the theater
Hmm.
and different seats can have different prices also. So maybe
Hmm.
first row is cheap or something, right?
Hmm.
And then some could be balcony, some could be gold class, whatever, right? Premium class, economy class, whatever, right? So there are a bunch of seats. We can assume that they're assigned in a rectangular position, which
Hmm.
is every seat, if you look in front, you will find one person. A seat is not positioned between two seats, like a triangle. That kind of layout we don't have.
Hmm.
So the theater we can just assume has X rows and Y columns.
Yes. Hmm.
And each of these squares can have a seat or can be empty if it is like a, like first row can have 20 seats, second row can have 18 seats, something like that.
Hmm.
Right? But they have to fit in this rectangular pattern. That is
Hmm.
one thing.
Hmm.
Uh, yeah, so you'll model the theater as a grid,
Hmm.
rows, columns, seats, and each seat will have a price and an availability.
Hmm.
On the front end, you can just color code it. Maybe the costliest ones are green, middle ones are yellow, very cheap ones are white. You can, and the ones that are already booked are indicated by a cross sign, or
Hmm.
they're not even shown in the UI.
Hmm.
So that can be done in the front end side. And the user will click one and you make a call to the database. You say update bookings, right? So there's one table which is the schedule, right?
Hmm.
What we discussed earlier.
Hmm.
The other is the bookings.
Hmm.
The bookings table will have user ID, location, time, and seat. It won't have the movie because once you specify the location and the time, whichever movie is playing, that's the one you book.
Yes. Hmm.
And we'll consider multiplexes to be multiple locations for this. So if Alsur has 3 screens, we'll model it as Alsur 1, Alsur 2, Alsur 3. Right?
Hmm.
So multiplexes are just different locations.
Hmm.
In the UI, you can show it as Alsur, but database level, you can have multiple Alsur 1, Alsur 2, Alsur 3.
Okay.
So you can have a display name and a database name, which are two different things. So when I book, we say update bookings, right?
Hmm.
Set, let's see. So the first, let's look at the columns before we write the query.
Okay.
Location, start time, seat number, right? This row and column together constitute a seat number. That can be like 39J or something like that, right? Where the row is a number and the column is a digit, or it can be anything. It can be 39,7, whatever it may be, right? There's a seat number or seat ID. So in a location, for a location timestamp, seat ID, user ID.
Hmm.
This ensures that two people have not booked the same seat at the same time in the same location.
Okay.
But you can book the seat on Monday, I can book the seat on Tuesday. Or you can book the seat in one. Basically, this will be a unique, right? The entire, all the columns together will constitute the primary key.
Okay.
Except the user ID. So location, time, and seat. Because on 20th April, in Alsur, seat 39J can be occupied by only one person.
Yes.
So the database itself will ensure that we don't have two people booking the same seat. So that is one thing.
One question.
Only thing is you have to do it in a transaction. Go ahead.
So all these parameters for constitutes as a primary key, you said, right?
Except the user ID. So basically the user,
because that particular user ID in that particular location, in that particular street number, so all can together constitute primary key, right? Why should we accept user ID?
If you include the user ID in the primary key, then you can have two entries in the database where you and I have booked the same seat in the same theater on the same day, which logically does not make sense, right? Two of us can't sit in the same seat.
But if it all these forms as a primary key, then our DB doesn't allow other users to book this particular row, right? Particular day value, right?
It won't. Exactly. That's the purpose, right? If you have booked it, I can't book it.
Yes. So my point is, even if we include user ID, exclude user ID, it doesn't make a big difference, right? Because even if you add user,
no, if you include user ID, you can have. If you include user ID, you can have seat 39J, comma Satish, and 39J, comma Karthik as two different rows in the database. But if you don't include the user ID in the primary key, then the database will give an error if you try to insert two rows like this, saying that the primary key is flash.
Screen number timestamp. Okay, got it. Okay, got it. Understood.
And this ensures that different people can book it on different days or same time, but different locations they can book. All those are allowed. But if everything is the same, the location is the same, the time is the same, the seat is the same, then there can be only one person, right? And we'll have to do this in a transaction so that two people are not booking at the same time. So you would say, set this, you would say insert into whatever, 39J, comma, Bangalore, comma, whatever the timestamp, right? January 31st, 8 p.m., comma, Karthik. If this is blank, and you do it in a transaction. So if two people book it, the second guy will get an error. And that will go back to the UI and it will say, sorry, this seat is booked. And the app will immediately refresh the UI and say, pick another seat.
Okay.
Now, if you have a popular movie and 15 people are booking every seat, right? That's the case you say. The 100 seats, there are 1,500 people trying to book. Correct? One question I would ask is, can we do something like surge pricing, like Uber? Double, triple, quadruple the price.
No, that's
because
not.
That way,
because there are rules. We can't do that.
Oh, we can't do that. Okay. So then it will work. So there are two issues here. One is user frustration.
Karthik, let me frame that question so that it's not lost. So the question is, how you will prioritize the clicks, prioritize the selections. Like, so the question is basically, if it is a very famous movie, let's say it's Rajinikanth movie, so per seat 15 to 20 people are targeting. In the UI, I'll just click on it. It will be instantaneous. But how backend will respond to it? How you will prioritize it?
So the naive answer does not involve any prioritization. You don't have high priority users and low priority users, like VIP users, and you don't have that prioritization.
You don't. Yes.
And because you're using transactions, it ensures that two people cannot book the same seat. And also, if two people try to book, one of them will succeed. It's not that both of them will fail and the seat will remain empty. That case will not happen, right? So basically what I'm trying to say is if a Rajnikant movie has released and there are 100 seats and there are whatever 1,000 people trying to book, all these transactions will run on the database.
Okay.
Some will succeed, some will fail. The people who fail will get an error message, then they'll try again.
Okay.
Now there are two problems with this, or two downsides. One is more load on the database.
Okay.
And this can be a problem because assuming the latest movie, assume it's a Hindi movie, it's releasing all over India. It will have even more demand than a Rajnikant movie, right? Some very famous Hindi movie, really hyped up, everyone is talking about it. Let's say all the stars are there in it, whatever, right? And all over India, people are trying to book it. Because if it's a local thing, if it's like, let's say, Tamil hit, let's say. Even though there is a lot of load from Tamil Nadu, when averaged across the entire country, we don't have to worry about the load on the database. But if it's like a Hindi movie, then there's load from all over the country. So the peak will be higher. So one simple solution is to scale up the database.
Yes.
Right?
You will have distributed everywhere.
Distributed or even a single database with more CPUs, more memory, etc.
Okay.
So that is one thing, right? That's straightforward. Now you can do things like scale up the instance size before a major event because you know when it is going to release, right? If you're worried about costs, instead of running the bigger instance type all the time, you can scale it up when some big movie is releasing and scale it down afterwards. You can do that.
Yes.
Right? So leave that as. The other problem with these e-cars is user frustration. I'm trying to book a seat. It's not working. Then I click a second one. Then by the time I click it, that is also taken. Right? And then I try again. I'll be frustrated. For that, we could have
here. Let's say A1 seat is clicked by 20 users. Since it is transaction, only one will be successful, another 19 will fail. So can we optimize this process? For example, 20 people clicking on that seat and hitting the database, then getting the response, what happened? How can we optimize this? Do you have any optimization idea for this?
Do you want to optimize it to reduce the database load or for some other reason?
Users frustration, to avoid users frustration. Like you said.
So for that, I have a different solution I was just about to give you, which is, suppose there are three classes of tickets, 100 rupees, 150 rupees, and 300 rupees.
Okay.
Instead of selecting a specific seat, I can have a UI that says, among these 150 rupee seats, give me. Right? That way the system will automatically.
Your voice was.
Yeah. So we talked about this grid of seats. And in this grid, let's assume there are three different price classes. Some seats cost 100, some cost 150, some cost 300. Let's say I want the middle class, 150.
Okay.
There can be a UI element that says, book any 150 rupee seat for me. I'm not particular about a seat. That way the system can automatically retry and find one seat for me.
Let's say a family of 4. In that case, what will be the case? If we
then, yeah, that's another thing, right? Okay, so actually one more thing is, even before we get into this high load case, with the family of 4, in the same transaction, we should check and block all 4 seats. Otherwise, some can be booked and some can be rejected. We don't want that. So family of 4 case. So again, now we run into other things, right? Let's assume the family wants to sit in the same row.
Yes.
You can't have 2 people in the first row, 2 people in the second row.
Yes.
You can't have 4 people behind each other also.
Scattered also,
funny,
yes.
Right? No, forget scattered, but even behind each other. You are sitting behind you, your brother is sitting behind you, your mom behind you, your dad. That doesn't make sense. Right? So the constraint is they have to be on the same row and next to each other. So now this particular case, handling it, requires you, and so now again, there are 2 ways of handling this family of 4 case. One is let them click 4 seats in the UI next to each other and book it. Right? They can do it manually. Select 4 continuous seats. But if you want to handle this use case of, there's a big movie and there's a lot of rush.
Hmm.
First of all, I'm not even sure we need to handle the user frustration aspect of it,
Okay.
because anyway, a lot of people are not going to get a seat.
Hmm.
So they will be annoyed anyway. They'll be unhappy anyway, no matter what we do. So if
Okay.
there's 100 seats and 1,000 people come,
Hmm.
900 people will be unhappy anyway, no matter how many optimizations we do. So I'm not even sure that we need to do any kind of optimization, such as having the system select a seat. If that is busy, select another seat. I'm not even sure whether these optimizations are needed.
Okay.
Let the user click a seat, and if it is busy, then it will give an error. If he's frustrated, let him leave.
So basically, let's say I'm the unfortunate one and I select on A1.
Mhm.
I will wait for 2 seconds. Backend will send, sorry, it is booked. Look for elsewhere. So I need to book it. So as long as
No, hold on. When the backend sends that error, the UI will refresh. So let's
yeah,
say
it will,
earlier
it will
10,
refresh, yes.
yeah,
It will cross out or it will become blacked
yes,
out, whatever it is.
yes.
So I need to select others. So my question is, uh, in some way, can it be a real time thing, like how Facebook feed or any sports kind of feed gets refreshed automatically? Can we optimize it in that way? Will it be feasible?
It will be feasible. It will improve the UX at the cost of more system load.
Yes. Is the trade-off viable, at least for the higher volume loads? Because what do you think on first day where the load is very heavy, can this trade-off is it worth, where we do a real-time updation of UI so that we can read, because anyhow the user is going to be frustrated, obviously 900
Mhm,
users will not get the seats, but
mhm.
in this way at least if it is real-time load, at least I will know, okay, those seats are not booked yet, at least let me click and it will go. So in that way, the frustration will be reduced. I'm asking whether this trade-off is worth or not.
Yeah, that's a very good question. The first thing I would do is first launch and see what happens. I would not theorize too much. See how
Okay.
many people are complaining and
Hmm.
what the complaint is.
Okay.
If the complaint is all the tickets are sold out in 5 minutes,
Okay.
if that is what people are complaining,
Hmm.
then this solution will not fix the problem, right?
Yes.
Whereas if the complaint is that the UI shows seats that are not available, I have to click 8 times to get a seat.
Hmm. That's a problem. Yes. Hmm.
Okay. So the problem is not that the seats are being sold out quickly, correct?
Hmm.
Okay. So let's see. The problem is it will be a M by N problem where if there are M seats and
Hmm.
N user,
Hmm.
the number of updates will be M times N.
Hmm.
Each user's UI has to update.
Hmm.
Now, suppose somebody has just left the browser open
Hmm.
and he's talking to somebody.
Hmm.
Then we are spending all these resources updating it when he is not even looking at the screen. So that is one thing.
But that
The
will be
other thing is,
automatically offset, right, Karthik? Because if our app will go to background, our browser will go to background when you are on a call, then there will be no network calls happening. Only on the
no, but
first
I'm saying desktop. So suppose
desktop.
you
Okay.
have it open on your desktop and
Hmm.
someone comes and you're talking to them. You haven't switched to another app. But leave aside those use cases
Yes,
or
those
those
cases,
problems.
unfortunately, we need to handle it because we can't
Yes,
pick that situation.
yes. So let's try to estimate the load. Suppose we don't do this, right?
Hmm.
Let's assume there are M seats across India for the latest, whatever, Amir Khan movie or whatever.
Hmm.
There may be whatever, right? 10,000 seats all
Hmm.
across India.
Hmm.
And no, actually, people are looking at a particular theater. They're not. I mean, one more thing you could look at is a UI where you say, I want to watch the latest Amir Khan movie somewhere in Bangalore. But we are not talking about those use cases. I am particular about a theater. I'm not
Particular theater
such
and
an Amir Khan fan that I'll go anywhere in Bangalore for the Amir Khan movie. Okay,
okay.
let's make that assumption. Is that reasonable?
No, Karthik, because it's not in practical, it's not happening. Because whenever I go to book my show, I'm very particular about theater, very particular about row. Even
Exactly.
I'm very particular about the seat. We don't need to discuss that anywhere, any location nearby, because the entertainment is about more convenience and the preference. So we don't need to consider that.
So you're particular about a theater. You're also particular about a seat, is it?
Yes, yes,
Are you particular about the time?
yes. Yeah, Karthik. The convenient time,
Day?
evening slot, evening 6:30 like that.
Right. But suppose today evening 6:30 is busy, the system automatically says tomorrow 6:30 is free. It can be given as a suggestion to the user, maybe. And if he wants, he
Okay.
can. That
Okay.
could be one more thing. So basically, if I select a particular theater, particular time, particular seat, and
Hmm.
it's not available, right? In this use case,
Yes.
where a lot of people are trying to, yeah, one thing we can do is try to spread the load across days. So
Okay.
if lot of people, we can have some threshold, right? But if lot of people are booking first day, first show,
Huh?
then in the UI we can suggest, do you want to try tomorrow or day after or in 5 days? And some people can get a prompt for tomorrow, some for 3 days,
Okay.
some for 5 days. And it'll just be a prompt. If you don't like it, you can ignore it or you can click the X and it will go away. It won't force you. It'll just be a suggestion.
Okay. Okay.
So that way we are spreading the load. So in this use case, when 1,000 people came, instead of turning away 900, let's accommodate all 1,000 on 10 different days by giving this prompt in the UI.
Okay, Karthik.
Because we don't want to turn away users, we are losing revenue. Better to accommodate the user on another day. And the user will also be unhappy. So both ways it's a lose-lose, right?
Hmm.
And the movie studio will also be unhappy if fewer people are watching the movie, right? So it's a win-win-win for everyone if you suggest some other location or some other time. Suppose I select 8 p.m. or 10 p.m., right? It's not available. Maybe 7 p.m. it will show, or the other way around, or a different location in
Got
the same city, right? We can have some threshold within 10 kilometers or something of the selected theater. So all these options can be shown in the UI. Different theater, different time, different day. Instead of trying to crowd everyone onto the same day.
Got it. We'll move on to next question, Karthik.
So let's see once again. Billing we have taken care of. So what are all the use cases here? Finding a movie, looking at the schedule for a theater, knowing how long a movie will run, booking a ticket, booking a family thing, choosing a seat, choosing a class, booking immediately, like for today, booking for another day. I think we covered all the cases, right? Do you have any specific questions about
Yeah,
this?
I have.
Okay.
Karthik, now let's take the transactional case again, where a single seat is clicked by 15 users. Let's forget all
Mm-hmm.
the complications. It is a simple, whoever hits the database first will get successful and another 40 will be rejected. Now
Mm-hmm.
he will be, he will book and he will go to the payment screen.
Mm-hmm.
Here, let's say the user, so since that seat, the seat is not booked, it's just blocked, the payment has been not been made. So how the screens are like, block the seat,
So
pay. This is how it works, Karthik. Now you are in the blocked state. How the
mm-hmm.
queuing will work here? How long will you block that seat? Till which time you will notice that if there is no payment made, when you will unblock it, how this process will work, how you will prioritize queuing it.
I would not, in the UI, I can show it is blocked, but in the database, I would not block the seat.
Okay.
You select a seat, then you pay.
If you
In the
don't
and
block in the database, Karthik, in the UI, how you will be able to block it?
suppose I select 39J and then I say pay.
Okay, Karthik.
Immediately it will go to the payment screen. I'll type my credit card or whatever, Google Pay, all that I will do. First, the payment will be done, then only the booking will be done. By that time, if the seat is gone, it will say, sorry, the seat is no longer available.
No, no, no. It should not happen like that because the block status itself is success. Whenever I go to the payment screen, it is blocked only for me. That's how all the app works. Is it okay? The counter question is it's not the ideal case because it's completely fine that if I select that seat and I pay now, if it is not going to the payment screen and if it is showing an alert saying that it's already booked, it's completely fine. But if you go to the payment screen on pay now, if it is saying that no, it is blocked, means it is a very bad UX, right? Experience, right?
But you can
Sorry, Karthik.
you can refund the money immediately. First point. Second point, I mean, you don't even need to give the user an option, right? We can say, sorry, it failed, refunding the money. So that is one thing. The other thing is, even if you have a notion of blocking, the same problem can happen at the time of blocking before payment. So if both of us are looking at the same screen, both of us choose the same seat, and it will say blocking your seat, and one of us, the blocking will fail. So whether the payment succeeds or whether the payment fails, whether the payment fails or whether the payment succeeds and immediately gets refunded, is it such a big deal?
It's not a big deal, but still it's a very, in users perspective, it's a very painful point. Because generally how all these booking apps work is, as soon as I block, for example, let's say I create 2 tabs in Book My Show. Or for easier understanding, let's say 2 different browser, 2 different accounts, same theater, same row, and same seat. In the first browser, if I click and if I come to second browser, it will show a block for me. I can't even block it, even though I have not paid itself. There is a cooldown time for that block time. So that was my question. If that is the case,
Got it. Got it. Yeah, many of the systems have it. Big Basket, when you add something to the cart, it's locked for you for 5 minutes or something. After that, if your payment doesn't succeed, they'll release it for somebody else. Yeah, but then even there also there are a lot of problems. One is if you search and if you get a search result and you click the search result, the item says not available. Then why did it show in the search result? The answer is it's a race condition. Again, if you do a search, this time it won't show. And also, yeah, so that is one thing. So let's see. So you have said that this is a UX problem that needs to be solved. So let's think about how to do it.
How you will do it and in what conditions and all you will unblock it. So that's the question.
Unblocking is just a time. There is a certain time by which either it needs to be confirmed or it becomes free once again.
Okay.
Like 5 minutes or sometime.
Okay.
1 minute, whatever, right? We just have to think about misuse, such as if I'm not sure whether to buy it or not. I can just say block and then think for 5 minutes before someone else takes it. Right? And or I can call you and say, hey, shall we go, etc. Right? And then I can release it without typing my credit card number. I'll just say cancel or I'll just ignore it. So then I have blocked it so that I didn't get it and other people also didn't get it. So all these misuse type of cases we need to think about when we do blocking. But let's assume that, let's ignore that. So now we are talking about how do we do a block? How do we release it? We discussed. How do we do a block? So the state of the seat in the database. So we talked about how the seat at a particular theater at a particular time is the primary key. And the other column is a user ID, right? There can be another column which is blocked or confirmed.
Okay.
So if you book 39J in Alsur on Monday at 9:30, then it will say Alsur Monday 9:30 37J Satish, blocked. And then once your payment gets confirmed, it will go and update that. And the primary key ensures that you can't have 2 blocked people, you can't have 2 confirmed people, you can't have 1 blocked and 1 confirmed also. You can have only 1, right? Release thing, what we can do is we can run a batch process every minute on the database where it checks. And we'll probably need one more timestamp, which is the block time. One more column. So user ID. So the non-primary key columns are user ID, status, which is either blocked or confirmed, and the block time, right?
Okay.
So every minute you have this cron job that runs. It says select star where block time is more than 5 minutes in the past.
Okay.
and the status is blocked, and it just deletes all those rows. It will be a cron job which runs every 1 minute.
Oh, okay. Okay. Hmm. Got it. It adds even more load on our system on the peak days.
It does, which is why I was trying to argue against this. But it's just a question of UX versus resources, and resources are both system resources as well as engineering time to implement and troubleshoot and debug all these features.
Hmm. Got it.
Actually, now that you think about it, one more thing could be you could also have a thing where you don't have a block feature and
Hmm.
you say, rush and finish your payment before someone else grabs the seat.
Okay.
Right? That may also motivate people to book quickly instead of delaying if you don't
Actually,
have a block feature.
actually, Flipkart and Amazon does that. For example, recently I ordered one thing and hurry only one left. Even though I added into cart and I was in the payment screen, when I was about to pay, it got over.
Yeah,
So the blocked status actually Flipkart and Amazon is not following. As soon as it is like first in, first out.
exactly. So when I'm designing any system, as a general principle, I
Hmm.
would go with the simplest thing. Only if it is really important, I would add all these features because it adds more complexity. And finally, it doesn't solve the problem because if there are 100 seats and 1,000 people, 900, I'm not going to be able to watch that movie on that day anyway. So it's a lot of complexity for limited value,
Hmm.
is how I would look at
Okay.
it. But again, if it is needed really, then we can add it this way.
Hmm.
Now, uh, the other case you mentioned, I was just trying to analyze the complexity and we got sidetracked, which is where you say, give me any seat in this price.
Hmm.
Is that something you want to discuss? Or if you think it's a bad idea anyway, you're particular about a seat, we don't need to discuss.
Yeah, Karthik, it's not very practical for a few reasons because 90% of the people want particular seats and things.
Got
Because
it.
whenever I book a movie, I always send a row. The random order selection doesn't work practically. No one prefers
Got
that.
it.
Imagine yourself going to book my show. You will never click that feature, right? Random click
Got
any, because if it is very corner, sometimes it might be not very clean or it not be. So mostly the viewing angle, everything you will focus on. That's right.
Got it. Okay.
One
Any
final,
other questions? Yeah.
one final question. Karthik, this question is more into now. I'm just stepping up the question. Let's say I'm the theater owner and
Okay.
I want to collaborate with Book My Show also, Just Tickets also, Paytm Movies also. In that case, how all these things will work, Karthik? I don't know anything about tech. How we will solve this problem?
You don't know anything about tech. So the
No, Karthik, the
one,
basically now my theater, the seats availability are visible in all the platforms.
yes, yes, I understand.
Hmm.
Basically, the only thing I can think of is to have a proxy layer.
Okay.
So you have one company that, see, it's similar to payment gateways, right? You can have a lot of e-commerce sites, but they use a different payment gateway, correct?
Hmm.
Similarly, you can have a backend service and a front-end service.
Hmm.
The backend service will actually track the availability and the database, and it
Okay.
will offer an API. And it can be by some company that we don't even know, right? Because ordinary
They would
people, they
have
don't,
given, okay. Hmm.
yeah, just as we don't understand all the, so for example, when I transferred money from the US to India, it came via some intermediary bank. I don't even know there is such a concept.
Hmm.
So similarly,
Hmm.
this backend company, no one may know of the backend company also, the users. They may
Hmm.
just think I'm booking via Book My Show.
Okay.
But Book My Show is just a UI. You will just make an API call to this backend service
Backend, that's
provider.
intermediary service. Okay.
So that is how I would.
Got it.
And the theater owner would sign a contract with a backend service provider, not with Book My Show and Paytm shows, and each of them he doesn't do. Think
Hmm.
of it this way, right? If I get a credit card reader, it will be set up with an account and it will work for all cards. I,
Hmm.
as a, let's say I'm running a medical shop, I don't need to sign a deal with Citibank, then State Bank of India, then Canara Bank, then HDFC. I don't need to do that, right? I sign a deal with one guy who has tie-ups with everyone.
in case of this intermediary service, now all these load balance, everything will be handled by that service. We just
Yes.
need to handle the regular database transaction. That's it.
Yes.
Got it.
And the payment they can settle at the end of the month or something. So
Mm.
I still pay Book My Show, and at the end of the month, that company will tell Book My Show, okay, you have to pay 20 crores for this month for all the bookings together. And Book My Show will pay 20 crores. Something like that could be done instead of each individual payment.
Got it. Got it. Cool, Karthik. I don't have any other questions.
Okay. So yeah, how did I do in this?
Yeah, Karthik, few assumptions were like it was out of the regular practical approach. I mean, I think you don't use Bookmyshow that much. That's why.
I don't, yeah.
I know you don't follow that much. But actually, one few suggestions you gave are really good. And actually, I think it will improve the experience also. For example, you were mentioning, right? If the theater is getting full, you can, instead of me going outside and searching the theater, it can understand my knowledge, or based on that nearby locations, it can show. For example, let's say I am selecting PVR Bannerghatta Road. So it should show PVR Bannerghatta, PVR in nearby location. It should not show some local theater, since I'm inclined towards multiplex. So all those auto suggestion based on the location, nearby, proximity, it was a very good suggestion. I think if it will be cool also. And other than that, the transactional approach, everything all clear. Only thing that was the UX related thing, that auto load, that things we could have optimized more. We'd have discussed more. That's it.
Yeah, I'll just quickly discuss a load on the system.
Hmm.
Suppose there are 100 seats and we are looking at it theater by theater now.
Hmm.
Suppose there are 100 seats in the theater
Hmm.
and there are 1,000 people trying to book a seat.
Hmm.
With the naive approach, without auto load,
Hmm.
what will happen is, yeah, I mean, 1,000 people will click the button, all the requests will go. Some set of them, maybe 50 of them will succeed,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
And 50 of them will fail.
Hmm.
So for each user, for each attempt, there's only one request.
Hmm.
Yeah, basically we can make it auto refresh every 5 seconds. It will
Hmm.
make a server call and say, get me the seat availability, something like
Okay, got it.
that. And this
Hmm.
will be controlled by a flag on the server side. Only if it's a high availability, the auto refresh should be enabled.
Yes, yes. Yeah, that makes sense,
That
right? Because let's say in a weekday, that too for a very not very famous movie, we don't need to auto refresh 5 seconds. If it is not a peak day, if it's not a peak movie, peak star, it's
yes,
an unnecessary wastage of sources.
correct. And if the server is overloaded, for the auto refresh, it will give a 503 or something, whatever the error code is. I think it's 503. And
Hmm?
immediately the app will stop auto refresh, saying the server is overloaded.
Got it. Cool, Karthik. Yeah, Karthik, it was very fun talking all these things.
Great.
Actually, this
This
data
seemed
and all good.
fun. Yeah. This seemed like an easy question, though I didn't feel challenged.
Oh, then let me prepare
Yeah.
something, and I'll really make it hard for you.
Great, great. All right. Let's do that another day.
Cool, Karthik.
Okay. Bye bye.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you.